I was sleeping with this girl in Amsterdam once. We'd both just taken a shitload of magic mushrooms, and I remember right as she came, she blurted out, "I don't think God cares about good or evil. I think he just wanted it to be beautiful." And that's always kind of stuck with me, because it would explain a lot, wouldn't it? But if that is the case, I think God would be disappointed in Black Ops 7. I think God would shed a tear for America, because this game confirms what we already knew. The apocalypse is here, and it's dull, and it's ugly. If you had a time machine and paid me a visit in 2010 when I was 14 years old and Call of Duty was my fucking life, and you had shown me this game, I would have asked you what went wrong in the world. When did we trade ambition for grift? How can this be all they have to show for 15 years of labor and technological advancement? And how is it that a fanbase once 30 million strong could settle for such disrespect? To be blunt, if Black Ops 2 had come out after this game, we would say it was an outstanding sequel that makes leaps and bounds forward for the franchise. Because 15 years on, this game is less in every way. Black Ops 7 multiplayer features no significant innovations, nor any notable additions whatsoever. All that can be said for it is that it's a Call of Duty game. It has maps and guns. There is nothing to separate it from any other COD. It feels like a sort of generic AI rendition of COD, the ultimate average COD slop. It could have been DLC for any COD going back to Black Ops 1 and nobody would have thought it out of place. The big difference with modern Call of Duty is that they give every player infinite sprint by default now. This is because, as every study shows, TikTok, Insta Reels, and YouTube Shorts have given everyone brain damage. Because scrolling short-form video content, even just every now and then, significantly alters brain structure and dramatically shortens our attention spans. COD itself used to be the ultimate free dopamine lever, but even COD looks like an encyclopedia next to the instant, effortless gratification dopamine feedback loop that TikTok mastered. Everyone is addicted to scrolling, and games aren't just competing with other games, every screen is competing with every other screen. Netflix has a new policy of dumbing down its shows so that people can scroll their phones while they watch and still understand what's going on. I think COD has to give everyone infinite sprint because without it, we would be checking our phones while our characters were walking. The problem with infinite sprint is that every map plays at the pace of Nuketown now. It's exhausting and leaves very little room for anything like strategy or tactical positioning. It's just literally everyone running around like a chicken with their head cut off. When they first put out Nuketown, it was supposed to be like a novelty, a meme, a map so stupidly fast-paced that it'll make you chuckle when you play it. Now the meme is all there is. Our brains are melting and the world is melting with us. But to truly understand why Call of Duty sucks now, you have to understand the era of enshittification we are living through. Now, the term enshittification, first coined by the tech journalist Cory Doctorow, is often used as slang for anything that doesn't seem as good as it used to be, which is basically accurate, but it's important to understand the technical process enshittification describes. As dictionary.com puts it, enshittification is the gradual degradation of an online platform or service's functionality as part of a cycle in which the platform or service first offers benefits to users to attract them, and then pursues more and more profits at the expense of the user's experience. Basically, companies offer up a high-quality product to reel us in, lock in the customer base with some bullshit, and then they start nickel and diming you by cutting corners and raising prices. Famous examples of enshittification include Facebook, which began as a purely organic social network in which you saw your friends post, but once a critical mass was achieved and it was hard for anyone to leave the site because they'd have to convince all their friends to leave too, then Facebook started spamming promoted content and advertisements and prioritizing those above organic user posts. Or Netflix, which began as an ad-free, low-cost alternative to television, but once they had gotten everyone to cancel their cable subscription, once streaming was dominant, then they start increasing their subscription fees and adding ads themselves and cracking down on password sharing such that it might as well just be normal cable, but now it costs way more too. Look at Twitter, now X, which achieved such a massive critical mass of users and made everyone so dependent on it for promotion, outreach, news, and whatever that it can do literally whatever it wants and get away with it. They've started charging fees to post, fees for verification, disabled the ability to block, and of course they throttle links so nobody can promote content that might send traffic off of X. If any of those policies had been in effect at the start, it's safe to say Twitter never would have taken off in the first place. But once you have that critical mass of users, once you have achieved the network effect, then you can start abusing the customer base. Call of Duty has followed the exact same pattern. When I was a kid, every new COD brought new and exciting things. Zombies was new, killstreak rewards and class customization, new playlists and dramatically improved graphics. Every level of a COD campaign was a unique, intimately handcrafted environment filled with innovative combat sequences and masterful cinema. Unsurprisingly, it achieved critical mass, a combination of brand recognition and a player base large enough that it was hard to play other games because all your friends would still be on COD. And the abuse, the corner cutting, it started early. Even right after MW2 when they fired Vince Zampella and Jason West, the primary talent that first invented Call of Duty, because it was cheaper to keep the product and go on without them. They started reusing assets. More and more new maps were simply reskinned old maps. COD's campaigns increasingly became awkward collages of reused multiplayer or zombie content. They would try over and over again to release COD without major features, without a campaign, or replacing zombies with AI bots you fight on multiplayer maps. They ditched theater mode and custom calling cards, and all these trends culminate at last in Black Ops 7, the least ambitious, low-effort, bare minimum amount of content Call of Duty in the history of the franchise. A game which I suspect will go down as the worst COD in history, at least until the next one. The Black Ops 7 campaign is so bad I almost wonder if it's some kind of cry for help from the developers, a hidden SOS that the Activision execs wouldn't notice, a campaign so bad that any gamer would be genuinely flabbergasted that it could even be released, precipitating a crisis, like when Britney stormed off stage to bring some attention to her false imprisonment. The dev team being picked off one at a time by bro-oligarch paper pushers with no appreciation for game development as an art, desperate to extract as much wealth out of every middle-class, low-income regular guy in America to replace every worker with the infinite virtual slaves Altman has promised them. This campaign consists largely of reused zombie and Warzone assets. The enemy AI is the most cartoonishly bad it's ever been, lifeless enemies that don't react or even look your way as you walk up next to them. The environments are these giant pieces of Warzone maps with all this extra redundant, unused space with no enemies or objectives. It's just there. It feels like you're playing in an abandoned shopping mall. The combat and objectives are mindless to the point it literally feels like that legendary meme Duty Calls demo someone made back in 2011. If this wasn't a cry for help, then the developers are simply bad at their jobs. Because whoever made this obviously does not care about their audience or the quality of their work. It's genuinely insulting to release this campaign. When we see today the clumsy way they are trying to force AI systems into the development process with Studio Ghibli slop calling cards and God knows what else, it's clear that Activision's overarching philosophy is to invest as little money as possible on the development staff that actually makes the fucking game. This is unsurprising. Labor costs are often the most expensive part of any company, so finding ways to skimp in this area is the ultimate enshittification strategy. That means hiring less developers, and it means hiring devs who are willing to work for the lowest pay possible. Game design is an art. Designing a multiplayer map and anticipating what kind of encounters it's going to create, that is some hyper-creative shit. For a franchise as large and impactful as COD, they should be scouting and hiring as if it were an NBA team. They should be fighting other companies tooth and nail to sign the LeBron James and Shohei Ohtanis of game development. Instead, it's clear they are putting ads on LinkedIn for $35K a year to Gen Z neckbeards who are fucking phoning it in, man. But we must also interrogate the larger economic situation that makes enshittification profitable. After all, in an ideal capitalist system, Activision and all these other companies would make more money and see more customers by investing in a higher quality product. Instead, they have uniformly determined that hawking the cheapest bullshit possible is the only way to generate higher profit. Why? Because the American consumer is fucking tapped out, man. We are out of money. We are living through a second Gilded Age. Wealth inequality today is the worst it has ever been, with the top 10% of households holding 70% of the nation's wealth. Meanwhile, the bottom half of America only owns 2.5% of the nation's wealth. As of this moment, 50% of all consumer spending comes from just that top 10% of Americans by income. Think about the insanity of that number. If you are a company and you know that half of your sales are going to come from this tiny sliver of the population, how does that change your business strategy? This is exactly what many professional economists are studying and writing about today. It's called the K-shaped recovery, a reference to how the economic graphs look when one group is trending upward while the other sinks. This ultimately results in what economists call the bifurcation of the economy, a two-tiered economy in which companies must either cater to the wealthy or to the poor, never in between. This is because as wealth inequality widens, it changes what kind of businesses and business strategies succeed. Longtime viewers will recall I've discussed this before during COVID. Back then, economists noticed that as the wealth gap widened, companies that cater to the very poor, like the dollar store, and companies that cater to the very wealthy, such as yacht designers, were all doing very well, while companies that relied on middle-class customers like JCPenney were filing for bankruptcy. Today, the pattern is repeating itself. The dollar store is once again booming. Meanwhile, McDonald's, Chipotle, and Coca-Cola are all reporting steep declines in sales, and McDonald's has reintroduced its value menu as an emergency measure to ensure us poors can still get our McFlurries. Bookings for budget hotel rooms and coach airplane tickets are way down, while luxury hotel rooms and first-class plane tickets are selling faster than companies can keep up. Auto sales are down, 90-day delinquency payments are up, but luxury cars and platinum credit cards are doing the best they've ever done. Economists note that the companies which will be hit hardest by inequality are those that rely on high transaction volumes, and unfortunately for us, video games are exactly that kind of product. i.e. if you're selling yachts, you can stay in business just selling a handful a year, whereas with video games you usually need to move millions of copies to turn a profit. A while back there was an illuminating interview with then EA president Frank Gabot speaking about Dead Space, who said, and I quote, "In general, we're thinking about how we make this a more broadly appealing franchise because ultimately you need to get to audience sizes of around 5 million to really continue to invest in an IP like Dead Space. Anything less than that and it becomes quite difficult financially given how expensive it is to make games." End quote. Video games need a strong middle class to survive, period. To remain profitable, they need millions of customers. When the vast majority of Americans' wages have only just barely kept pace with inflation for the last 20 years, that squeeze is going to be felt by companies that rely on large customer base. Because even a person in the top 10% with all that purchasing power, it's still just one human being. They can only fit so much food in their stomach. There's never a reason that they need to buy a second copy of a video game. So that consumer spending just isn't going to flow to middle-class products like video games. Instead, it's going to go towards absurdly expensive things like flying first class or luxury yachts. Economists note that many companies adapt to wealth inequality by relying on shrinkflation. They know they can't raise prices because their customers are out of fucking money, so instead they start cutting corners in ways they hope their customers won't notice. A few less chips in the bag, a slightly smaller bottle size, or thinner toilet paper rolls. Basically, skimpy. And that's exactly what we've seen Call of Duty do with its reliance on reused assets and general enshittification. Indeed, the rise of microtransactions across the industry is video games' ultimate answer to wealth inequality. Instead of developing new content or winning customers with higher quality content, they rely on milking the customers they already have with bite-sized virtual aesthetics that are basically the same thing as the dollar store. It's the sort of thing their poorer customers can still afford for a few dollars at a time, and that their wealthier customers, the infamous whales, can buy up in vast quantities. And of course, the next major ultimate phase of enshittification will be the rise of AI and replacing all workers with AI slop. It's what the investor class wants, it's what the CEOs want, that we all live our lives in a sea of sloppy AI soup, and Musk and Activision won't even have a reason to keep us alive anymore. But the truth is, they got way too high on their own supply with this AI shit. Here's all you need to know about AI. 95% of companies that have implemented AI have seen zero productivity gains. Altman has $13 billion in revenue, and soon he's going to have to pay $1.4 trillion to service his company's debt. Newsflash, that's not going to fucking happen. Because to date, not a single AI company has turned a penny of profit. Remember, revenue is not profit. When you sink trillions of VC dollars into imaginary games and parlor tricks and you only get back pennies on the dollar, that's not a business, it's a scam. He got asked about this in an interview. He threw a hissy fit. The next day, he's out there saying he needs the government to insure his debts. What does that tell you? It's a bubble. Michael Burry, the guy that Christian Bale plays in that movie, has opened major short positions on AI just like he did the housing bubble in 2008 when he made $700 million predicting the crash. Fucking Peter Thiel pulled all his money out of AI a few days ago, and he's an idiot, but he's the ultimate tech insider, so it's like if you're still investing in AI, what the hell do you know that he doesn't? This bubble's gonna crash and it's gonna fucking hurt people, and you know why they get away with it? Manufactured fucking consent. Read your fucking Chomsky, people. Here's how the world works. Journalism relies on access. You can't report on anything if nobody will do interviews with you or answer your questions or tell you things. But politicians and businesses naturally don't want to give access to reporters that are mean. So the only reporters that get access are the ones who don't say anything too negative. The result is that all journalism is universally biased towards the powerful. It's not some grand conspiracy. It never has to be stated out loud. It is simply the inevitable result of everyone doing what's in their personal best interest without ever thinking about the bigger picture. Businesses don't need to state out loud that they aren't inviting journalists that speak too honestly. They just don't do it because the decision maker knows it would be a dumb decision from a business standpoint. Journalists figure out the incentive system based on observing the patterns of who gets access and who doesn't and figure it out for themselves. The whole thing is an unspoken quid pro quo, a sort of Skinner's box of corruption. And that's how we end up with 40% of the stock market being rammed into a product that has never made a profit and probably never will. Because the journalists willing to parrot company executives talking about AI revolutionizing the world and all this shit get access, and the journalists who ask OpenAI how it's going to meet its $1.4 trillion in spending commitments don't get invited back for another interview ever. And this exact same shit is happening with our games. Terrible games like Black Ops 7 get away with major sales for the same reason AI did. Influencers who are nice and post cool clips of the game get invited to early access events. Influencers who talk shit don't get invited to anything. I was even talking about this with Actman, and he told me how Halo stopped inviting him to stuff, and the influencers they do invite, they specifically told them you're not allowed to talk to Actman. That's all this shit has ever been. I made a video about this in like 2015, and I got into a spat with Drifter about it. It's all bullshit, man, top to bottom. The corruption has blinded us, and now our games suck, and the bubble is gonna blow, and it's gonna hurt real fucking bad. But the night is darkest just before the dawn. America will rise again. It's not about capitalism and socialism and all this fucking phony intellectual wordplay so a bunch of bow tie wearing dumb fucks can sniff their own farts. The question is, as a country, when are we gonna start conducting ourselves with a measure of dignity and love? Whether you like it or not, this country is your fucking family, and it's time we start looking out for one another. We gotta tax our fucking billionaires. Everyone's always nostalgic for the past, make America great again, yada yada. I'll tell you what you're nostalgic for. You're nostalgic for those post-World War II tax rates when we were taxing fuckheads like Musk at over 90% and putting that money into education and infrastructure and turning America into a motherfucking pimp-ass country filled with trailblazers and liberty and love and justice. And the arts were the greatest we've ever seen, and now it's all stagnated because Reagan came in and finger-fucked the middle class with a 2x4 plank of wood. What we're all nostalgic for is the America we had before wealth inequality exploded in 1980, when it was one country and one economy, not a corrupt cabal of billionaires and Activision CEOs treating us like goddamn farm animals. We can have that America again, but you gotta fucking believe. You gotta want it. Miss me with the masochism and pseudo-fucking stoicism. You think you're all high and mighty because you're too proud to say they need to raise taxes on billionaires? You ain't nothing but a bitch letting your pocket get picked. What's happening to Black Ops 7 is what happened to the whole country. Call of Duty is just another casualty in the war. Wealth inequality is a cancer that touches everything. They did it to the game, they did it to everything you can see or touch in the entire economy. They've done it to our very souls. We must fight. Fight to the bitter end. Fight for justice, fight for love. Fight for your goddamned humanity. I am putting out the fucking bat signal. Where are my homies? Waffles, where the fuck are you? I don't know how to get a hold of you. Message me on Discord. I think my name is just Batman Dobbins. Steffi, where are you? Message me, damn it. Ash, where are you? Shout out and love to all my loyal longtime bat subs, Alan Medina, Dr. Leatherwood, Josh Mrauka, Antarico, Dr. Simo, Reykjavik, Relatable Traffic Cone, Woods Beetle, all you random motherfuckers that hung out in my Discord for 6 years while I couldn't even remember my password. Tommy is back editing my videos. I'm putting the gang back together. Put the fucking word out. From its conception, this channel was always about economic justice for gamers across the world, and it always will be. The fight continues. Long live the gamer. Long live America. I know it sucks right now because the president is a pedophile and the AI bubble is about to burst, but that's okay, because one thing I've learned about this world is it tends to just keep on fucking spinning, and 17 years later, here we are, still playing Call of Duty.